the last text that she sent was to a boy that she was seeing, and it said these words, words hurt, and I'm going to show you how much. And an hour later, she was gone.
What would you say to someone struggling with like the things that you went through? Somebody's got to be relating.
Yeah, I want to go back to this suicide thing. Because I think more people deal with this either with a family member or mental illness. It's such a real thing. And I remember asking my niece all the time, beautiful Alicia, she was part of the youth group. She was in church on Sundays. Alicia, how are you doing, sweetheart? How are you doing? And she would tell me, I'm great, Aunt Tanya. And she was telling me not what I desperately needed to hear, but what she thought I wanted to hear. And you don't help anybody by not telling people you're really struggling. And I didn't find out how much until I went to her up into her bedroom after the police came and took her away in the ambulance. And I laid down on her bed trying to process what this beautiful 18-year-old girl was going through as I lay on her bed the last night she would lay here. And I remember just looking through her room and I pulled out her drawer and her journal was in her drawer. I opened it up and it was like I was reading a stranger's story. Like I didn't know what I was reading, like the pain and the trauma and issues with the boy and the last text that she sent was to a boy that she was seeing, and it said these words, words hurt, and I'm going to show you how much. And an hour later, she was gone. And I think I spend my life telling teenagers, speak life. Speak life. You have no idea what the classmate next to you or somebody in the hall is going through, the struggles that they're going through. They might be wearing a smile on their face like she was all the time. And inside of that, just a mask. And people got to tell you real answers too. I opened up her backpack too after I was reading through her journal, and she was handing in a homework assignment, and it was a Spanish assignment, so I had to have somebody interpret it. But I saw my name that she had filled in on one of the lines. And the question that the Spanish assignment was said, who's the person that you most look up to in your life? And she wrote, my Aunt Tanya. And it said, why do you look up to her? And she said, because she's so beautiful and she's easy to talk to. And I just started weeping because I thought, if I'm so easy to talk to, why are you gone? Why are you gone? But Alicia believed the lie of the enemy that she'd be better off out of this world than in it. And that enemy is really, that's his job, to kill, steal, and destroy. And Jesus come that he would bring life, not just life, but life in abundance into the full until it overflows, that kind of life. And I tell women that I think the older that we get, the less value we think we have. And I speak to in a lot of women's conferences, and I think that our value is attached to our beauty. I had a grandmother that was the most godly woman. I would walk into her room and she would have her Bible on her lap. She said very few words, but she had a prayer list with every child, grandchild, relative, and she would read that. And she was the most godly, beautiful woman. And we need more women that are not afraid to show that Christian beauty to young girls. Need people to look up to. They're looking up to the wrong people in the world. That's why they're so hungry on social media for recognition and to try, and the more seductive, the more appealing that is, the more attention you'll get. That's a wrong kind of attention, because I used to be like that. I did used to be like that, trying to attract some form of attention because I didn't have that from my dad. And when you don't have that from a father, you look for it somewhere else. And it's almost always in the wrong eyes, through the wrong attraction, because they don't love you for you, and it's trying to find your value and who you are. And I think praying, God, show me my value and my worth and who you made me to be, and not whether I'm liked by my friends or stand or out or I'm quirky or I'm funny or I'm different. It's so important. Girls just need that.
We can spend a lifetime looking for love. We are really seeking the love, like you said, but we're seeking the love of Christ. We spend our whole
Yes.
life seeking that love. You know,
Yep.
we may marry somebody that we love, but
Yeah.
ultimately we are seeking the love of Christ. And then when we come to that place where we feel his love and know his love, then we can our souls can feel satisfied.
Absolutely. That God-shaped hole that only he can fill, like what you're saying, Nancy. I love it. Yeah. It'll always be there. And I think
Yeah.
that's why when I got married at 18, he was 8 years older than me. But I think there was, I was messed up from the get-go, but I think it was just doomed because it was just it was that kind of attraction. And it was a wrong, but we do you attract what you think you deserve. You
Yeah,
do. You attract what
exactly.
you think you deserve. And oftentimes
Yeah.
you'll find the wrong people because broken people attract other broken people.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
why it's so important to be whole, and to let God heal those things. Like I said, when I got to Florida, and if I say to anything to women, if you've gone through a divorce, there's no shame in that. I'm telling you, more churches shun that or misdiagnose you or make wrong assumptions without knowing your story. I cannot tell you how many churches I walk into after I come off the stage after sharing my story that be like, your story is my story, and I'm ashamed to tell it. I'm in
Wow.
this church and they know nothing about what I've gone through because I can't deal with another rejection. I
Yeah.
can't deal with that. And I'm saying right now, churches don't deal with that well. A lot of them,
Mhm.
not everyone, and I'm not going to put everybody in that category, but oftentimes we're very critical and we shoot our wounded instead of
Yes.
draw them close. And we've got to be what's the number one thing that they'll know? Our love for one another. You can talk good deeds, you can give to the poor and feed the sick, but man, if you don't have love,
And Jesus came for the sinners. If that should be the motto in the church.
yeah,
Jesus came for the sinners. Sinners
yeah,
are welcome. You know,
yes,
come in
welcome.
so that Jesus can heal your heart and that
Yeah.
we have love to share and that we'll be able to minister to that. You know, you're right, and 100%. The ministry that you're doing right now with your husband, can you talk about that?
Yeah, so we go into the recovery clinic that him and I first ministered at, but we go there every 5 weeks in drug and alcohol, a massive recovery facility in Tallahassee, Florida, that we love people in addiction. We love the recovery world because we see, man, changed lives by the power of Jesus. Boy, I can't tell you we've been going there since we've been married, 7 years. And we see so much change. We go into schools, we do middle school and high school and assemblies and talk about, suicide, bullying, anti-bullying, all these things these issues, making right choices. Be be so careful who you're hanging out with and what you're listening to and the music and just what comes in here comes in here, right? It comes in your heart, what you listen to
Mhm.
and just all those things that they need to hear young people. We were coincidentally at a school in Dallas, Texas, years ago on a Sunday night, a teacher advocating to bring in to public school several artists, Christian rapper, giving away BMX bikes. I think one of the Baldwin brothers was there. John was one of the speakers. Probably 250 students there among their teachers, peers, and friends. And we asked them the question, 250 kids, how many of you this year have contemplating suicide this year alone? 50 hands went up.
Oof.
50 hands. And I thought, my gosh, if they're doing this in front of their friends, admitting to this, how many aren't? And it's an epidemic, but we're going into schools, addressing the issues that they're not. We're going into military facilities, mainly Army. We're credentialed with through the Army with their spiritual awareness program. And we go into military facilities for a week long and talk about the things that we're talking about. And suicide, it's in our military, it's an epidemic as well. It's an absolute, the week we were at a military base in Georgia. And the week that we were there, a drill sergeant committed suicide. I mean, it's a tragic thing that they feel like the military, unfortunately, because there's such a high rate of mental illness that they can't get in to see the doctors in enough time, and they're medicating and not fixing a problem. They're putting a band-aid on a gaping wound, and they oftentimes they can't say anything because you know why? A lot of them, if they admit to having an illness or struggling mentally, they lose their military clearance. They lose their security clearance. If they lose their security clearance, they lose their job. They lose their career. They get demoted. Everything they've fought and worked so hard for is gone. So they suppress it and they can't tell anybody that they're struggling. And they oftentimes find the way out is that, and it's tragic.
If anybody out there is looking for someone to come and speak in their church or at their event, how would they be able to get in touch with you?
Which is ireachusa.com, which is the letter I, reachusa.com.
The Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, call or text 988.